I'd like to welcome Katinka Tabakaru. Katinka is the founder and general counsel of Women's Voices Now. The issues of gender equality, ethnic and religious tolerance, and the upholding of human rights are the driving factors behind Katinka's work. An idealist with a pragmatic mind, Katinka focuses on playing her part in transforming our global society into a world where women and girls can be privy to the same freedoms and opportunities available to their male counterparts. Also joining us today is Bridget Maher. Bridget is a filmmaker who heads up the new media concentration in the School of Communications Film and Media Division at American University. Her latest documentary, Veiled Voices, focuses on the phenomenon of women in religious leadership in the Islamic world. And rounding out our panel is my good friend, Manal Omar, who currently serves as Director of Iraq Programs under the Center for Post-Conflict Peace and Stability Operations. That's a long one. In 2007, she was one of 10 visionaries who shaping Islam in America. Manal is the author of Barefoot, I wanted to hold my foot up, in Baghdad. Barefoot in Baghdad is her new book, and she has rare glimpses of Iraqi life that are not often chronicled in the American media. My guests, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me about this Voices project that you have. Who wants to start? Katinka.
So the film festival that we're putting together, I put it together with my co-founder, Leslie Sachs, and it's called Women's Voices from the Muslim World. And the idea is that we would create a collection of stories about, and sometimes and often made by, women living in Muslim-majority countries and Muslim women living as minorities around the world. This we consider necessary because there is such a void in information that we get from our traditional media, our traditional art sources.
Or what we get is the stereotype.
The stereotype, but also the lack thereof, because where do we see it, especially in the West, but not in the West, not just in the West, all over the world, what do we see? We typically see what governments would like us to see, what media giants would like us to see, what is convenient for us to see. But we don't see the stories that truly affect the lives of these women. So we have this one-dimensional image of the Muslim woman which lacks all nuance and complexity. And what we've done is we've put together a collection where someone can come online, so it's available to everyone all over the world.
Well, everyone who's not in the digital divide.
Correct.
But that they can come online, produce their own film, and then share it with the world through this medium.
Yes. So
now, this year, the project is focusing on Muslim women.
No, it's focusing on women living in Muslim-majority countries, which is a very important distinction because we do often lack the voices of the minorities.
Yes.
And then Muslim women living as minorities when they themselves are minorities.
Indeed.
And the reason that this scope was put together in the first place was because we wanted to focus on women in Muslim-majority countries in order to emphasize all the incredible advancements that were being made in women's rights in these countries.
An example.
An example,
because people don't think that there are advances for Muslim women in Muslim-majority countries.
I think you're right about that. I see it all the time because all of a sudden I have friends who watch these films because it's a project that I am on, and they're surprised that a woman in Afghanistan would ever make a film. And yet we just received 26 films from Afghanistan, which is absolutely amazing.
Bridget, I'm going to go to you talking about films and the making of films. What's happening?
I think it's so fascinating because it's really important when focusing on this subject matter to take representation into consideration. And so that's why the voices of women from Muslim-majority countries is so critical, because often what we experience in the West is from our own framework. And I know that from my work with Veiled Voices, it was really critical for us to hear from the women themselves what they felt their role was in religious leadership. And I think that that's what Katinka has really accomplished with this festival that focuses on women in Islam from their perspective within their framework.
Interesting. Manel, you're a woman in Islam. I've known you for a while. We kind of grew up together.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me about your work in this wonderful book, Barefoot in Baghdad.
I guess along the same lines of trying to get our voice out there, but in a very simple way that people can actually really absorb. I didn't want it to be a political analyst of what's going on in Iraq. There's enough of that out there. There's enough of talking about women in conflict kind of in a large scheme. And when people think about Iraq, they think of the bombings, they think of death. What I wanted to do is give that personal side, the personal side of women as survivors in an area of conflict, and really capturing their personal stories. I realized that if I'm going to tell their personal story, then I need to tell my own personal story. Okay. And that's what this book is. It's a memoir kind of intertwining their lives along with my own personal experience in Iraq.
All right, what's the big picture? What is it that out of this people should be looking for? Because we're going to show some of the video clips. What is it that you want people to really see in this project?
I would personally like to have people gain a better understanding of women in these countries, because we're...
Like what?
Like what? To see the woman as the heroine. To no longer see the woman as the victim, the oppressed, the abused. To see the woman as the change agent in her own society.
I also think so that, you know, Islam is pluralistic, and we just get a monolithic view of Islam in the United States. And I think it's
when you say monolithic, what do you mean?
What I mean is that we assume that there's only one interpretation of the faith.
You're right about that.
And at the same time, women are really pushing the forefront of interpretation, and they don't always agree, and they're very diverse in their perspectives.
Building on that, I think that I would add that's not necessarily what I want people to see, but what I learned. Going into Iraq as an American Muslim, I had my own view, my own assumptions, and I thought I had it all figured.
Your own American
my great
biases.
American, you know, knowing what's about, and I'm going to tell them how it is. And I learned to listen. And I think that that's whenever people ask me, when you go to these countries, what do you do now? And I say, I listen.
Amazing.
And that's incredibly important for learning the divide between governments and the people. And I think that there are countries who are teaching that, and societies that are teaching us that, because even here in America, the world doesn't like Americans because they don't like our government. But Americans are different people than our governments, just like Iranians are different people than their governments. And really the way to peace, prosperity, tolerance is by people communicating with each other and letting the governments do what, well, not letting them, but understanding that people are not their governments all the time.
This is really fascinating. We are going to segue into some of this beautiful work that you've done, to watch some of these video clips, and we'll be right back with our guests after a few moments. Thank you. Don't go away.